On this episode of The Range, I'm joined by Abby Swenson, founder of Northern Greens Golf Collective. What began as Abby's desire to create more opportunities for women to connect on the course has grown into a vibrant social community in Minnesota, complete with weekly tee times, clinics, trips, and community events. Abby shares her journey from tech professional to entrepreneur and community builder, how Northern Greens is making golf more approachable and welcoming, and why patience and curiosity have been her biggest lessons along the way. If you're interested in building community, balancing passions, or simply finding more joy in the game, this is an episode you don't want to miss. Welcome to The Range, the podcast where we explore the intersection of passion and business in the world of golf. I'm your host, Ari Ratner, and each episode will dive into the stories of the innovators, entrepreneurs, and trailblazers who are transforming the game we love into thriving businesses. Whether you're a golf enthusiast, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just curious about the business behind the sport, you're in the right place. So grab your clubs and join us on The Range as we tee off into the world of golf entrepreneurship. Welcome back to another episode of The Range. I'm here joined with Abby Swenson, founder of Northern Greens Golf Collective. Abby and I connected on LinkedIn a few weeks ago. I was lucky enough to speak with her about what she's building in Minnesota and glad to have her on. Abby, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Super excited to be here today and chat about Northern Greens.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we jump into Northern Greens, let's give the audience a sense of your connection to golf, when you picked up the sticks first and how long you've been playing.
Yeah, so I kind of started dipping my toes into golf back in like junior high school. Both my dad and my stepdad golfed. I went to junior high and high school across the street from a golf course. So there was many days that my dad asked to meet me at the driving range after school and I would do it, but didn't quite care about it. Unfortunately, what a regret, right? But I work in tech by day. So as I started growing in my tech career in my 20s, it kind of became apparent that I should probably learn how to golf. And then my dad and I own a business called Great Places Minnesota. It was kind of more of like a local Groupon for promoting deals for Minnesota-based businesses. But as that business grew around the same time as my tech career in my mid-20s, it shifted more towards golf courses and lake resorts. So both kind of happened at once. And I was like, well, I should probably learn how to golf. So started taking it a little bit more seriously and took some lessons.
That's awesome. And let's fast forward to Northern Greens. The audience is hopefully a national audience, so they may not be aware of what you guys do or what community you're building in Minnesota. So give the audience a sense of what Northern Greens is today, and then we could kind of rewind and start about its birth or talk about its birth and how you've grown to where it is today.
Great. Yeah. So Northern Greens Golf Collective is a women's social golf club. So we host weekly tee times. I help facilitate clinics with golf pros. I also do like social events or fun events like a 9 and wine, or we do happy hour, brunch. There's a bunch of different things. And then I also do weekend golf trips throughout Minnesota. And we actually just went out to Wisconsin last weekend.
That's awesome. And talk a little bit about why building this community to begin with.
Yeah. So I realized personally that I didn't really have any friends to golf with. And overall, I saw an opportunity that there was just a lack of a resource of like, here's one, like a listings page or something that shows like, here's where there's women's golf opportunities, there's clinics or women's golf pro or some of these other events that may be happening in the cities. There wasn't really just one place for people to find stuff or women's golf brands. So that was kind of the idea. I had found a women's golf club through an indoor golf center here in Minneapolis, and I kind of helped her run it for a little while and did a lot of promoting. And after talking with, probably somewhere between 200 and 300 women over a 2-year period, asking how did they find the group. And a lot of the times it was like, well, you posted in a Facebook group or through like LinkedIn or networking. I just really realized that there was a lot of people that didn't have someone in their life to golf with. And it's an intimidating sport as it is. And then just being a woman and giving people a place to golf with people and get people out to golf as well.
Yeah. And as you think about, starting it and growing it, what are some of the things that you worked on in terms of building the community? Because I think what's really interesting about all these, what I would consider local communities, but they have a very strong presence, is that community feel. How do you start to develop that within each member but ultimately then build a culture of that togetherness that makes such is such an important aspect of community.
I mean, I think what brought people to the golf club that I was a part of before was like all the same idea of like, I don't have anybody to golf with, or I don't know where to start. And is this beginner friendly? So it kind of is, everyone's there for a common reason. I'd say the majority, and out of the couple hundred people I've met through Northern Greens and then even through the past one, I'd say I can count on one hand how many like pairs of two. So
Yeah.
the community is just like everyone's coming to find people to golf with or find just, a place of commonality, not getting paired with random people or strangers. Just seeing the people that continue to come back, have positive experiences, and just happy that something exists, I think was, the big like tipping point of this is just a gap that wasn't there.
Yeah. And you're unique, I think, in that you wear many hats, right?
Yeah.
You have an IT career, you're supporting or helping your dad run a business. So you're kind of a conventional professional, you're an entrepreneur, and now you're a community builder. How do you
Mhm.
balance the three? I think ultimately the goal of the range is to help share advice to other entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs can come in a number of different fashions. Community builders, I believe, are entrepreneurs themselves.
Yeah.
You're unique because you're an entrepreneur from a business perspective. You're an entrepreneur from a community builder perspective, but then you're also managing kind of a conventional job. How do you balance the three?
Yeah, it's been hard. I started a new role actually just this past April, and last March when I started Northern Greens, I had also just started a new role at a new company at that point as well. And it's really been like trial and error by fire, figuring out what works best. Luckily when I started Northern Greens, I kind of had a solid group of about 20 girls from the other club that I took their feedback about how things were going or what do you want to see. So I had a really good baseline. And fortunately, I'm very type A and I like structure, I like organization, I like the consideration that goes into things. And when I think about what is my ideal golf club, I see that replicated. So it's been hard to manage. And last year, like I was all over the place with like I just wanted my website to be set up and I
Yeah.
didn't have any structure on tee times. Like I was like, okay, well, I should probably make a tee time. I'd call a golf course and be like, can I have 3 back-to-back tee times? And then I would post it on my website, after work. And typically they'd fill up. So that's good. This year, right before I started my job, I was not working at, a full-time career job over the winter. I was just focusing on me and my dad's business and just kind of taking a career break. Because if anybody knows about working in IT, it's just been a journey the last couple of years.
Sure.
And so I had some time to just sit down and be like, here's a calendar from May to September. And I just kind of piecemealed in like these are the courses. The Twin Cities area is huge. It's kind
Yeah.
of like a big rectangle or a big circle, if you will. We have Minneapolis and St. Paul. And, luckily I have a relationship with a lot of the golf courses we play at through me and my dad's business, Great
Mm.
Places. So I was able to like, pretty much once a month, just call and be like, hey, I need to set up tee times. I do registration every other Sunday night at like 7 p.m. So that way, I'm not having to do it every week. And again, like my tee times sell out within typically about a half hour, I would say.
That's awesome.
I have a membership that gets first dibs. So they get an hour ahead of time. And I have about 50 members right now. I'm actually just reopening my membership. You can get the rest of 2025 and then all of 2026. So that's really cool to, open that back up to people that have found me throughout the summer. I unfortunately, I don't know, fortunately, I'm addicted to my phone. I work in sales, so I'm like on my phone, I'm on the go in meetings, I'm not just sitting at my computer all day. So, I've had to definitely put in some boundaries of when I can do things, and Sunday night works the best. I, will find an hour. I'm a paper planner. I have like my big planner in my backpack. I also use my phone, but I like to write things down and just have it there. So it's just being intentional about prioritizing your time around things. With my membership, they have been super, super helpful. We actually just had an advisory board meeting this
Nice.
past week. So 12 of us got together. It was 75% members. And then I invited a couple of the girls who are not members that have come to a lot of events. And we talked about just tons of things. Right now with the sun setting early,
Hmm.
tea times, I can't do as many. I'm typically doing 3 to 6 in
Hmm.
one night back to back. but sometimes I can't make them. So I need somebody to help and facilitate, be there to help check people in, make sure people are getting off on the right foot and just kind of being an ambassador. So it takes a village, but a lot of the times it's just coming down to staying organized and staying true to the schedule and the time that I'm allocating, despite wanting to go out and golf, spend time with my partner, my family, and do everything else there is to do here.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you're so busy, you don't allow the Sunday scaries to hit. You just put something on Sunday night to do, and then it's.
I mean, I jokingly say I suffer from no chill. People are like, "How do you do it?" Or people ask for help. And luckily, I think I figured out something that works really well from my booking perspective, payments and organization and templates for everything. And, I just schedule it all in and live by the schedule.
The advisory board is interesting because I imagine when you started Northern Greens, you didn't have an advisory board then. So
Absolutely.
talk about kind of the growth in the short amount of time and getting to this point where, as you're growing the community and wanting to do more, the importance of, as you said, taking a village, finding who that village is and leaning on them and having the confidence and comfort of that community within the community.
Yeah. So, like I said, when I started Northern Greens, I kind of had like a solid group of people that I had met the 2 years prior that I bounced a lot of ideas off on. This year, my second year, I introduced the Clubhouse crew, which was the membership. And those are the people that come a lot. Those are the people that support me and that have been around. And I mean, I've had people sign up for Clubhouse crew. I mean, even today, somebody signed up and registered, and I don't even know this person. I don't think they've even ever come to an event. And that had happened back in the spring when I first launched it. But, just people asking, how can we help? And, while I am like very type A, I'm very direct living in Minnesota, which is a challenge that I often overcome. Like I have an idea of what I think it should look like. But again, this is about the community. And I think when it comes to golf, there's still a lot of core values and when it comes to etiquette that need to be very clear as expectations. But I want to be collaborative. I want to make sure that I am having people that come back. And I also have to know that like this maybe just isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
And, there's only so much expectation. So the advisory board came from, it's getting to a point where I need help. And there are so many people that are coming. I'm always in the last tee time. And I try to get there for the most part. I'm normally there at least 15 minutes before the first one so I can meet people for the first time, greet them. I have like these little golf tee and sticker packs that I give out to the new people. But, I'm not always there. I'm not in every tee time. I might have met someone and then noticed they didn't sign up again. So just having some like advocates that can, I can kind of shout them out as, hey, there's somebody from the advisory board that's going to be in this tee time. If there's questions, being able to look at these people and see the contributions that they've made, how they've supported the ideas that they share. And, anytime when it comes to conflict or building anything, I mean, it's important to come from a place of curiosity and trial and error. Like I try not to make too many changes throughout the season and be like, okay, I'm going to implement this for next year. Like that was a lot of what we talked about. Like what will change? What can I change now? And what makes sense? Because like I said, I'm like a straight shooter and like I have my ideas and I think I plan really fun weekend golf events, but like I'm also just a girl and like this is also my first time like starting things or planning things. I sent a couple of rounds of like post-event surveys and feedback and got a lot of really good feedback. So we went over all of that and it was really great to just, from an outsider's perspective of there's people that have been around for 2 months versus, and then I have people that have been around for over 2 years. So it's good to just have multiple perspectives. And it also like I'm doing this because I want to include outside opinions and thoughts.
Yeah.
But then what I also think that this shows to the community as a whole is that I am taking in the consideration of my following by doing the feedback, by involving people from different walks of life into the advisory board.
Yeah. And I think it starts to become more about the Northern Greens community as opposed to just Abby, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is super important as you look to build and grow the community. Communities are just as pretty much the same as businesses, right? As you think about your membership, you think about retention, you think about acquisition. Talk a little bit about the focus between retaining members and or women that are part of the community but haven't purchased a membership yet versus acquiring new members.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I just crunched some numbers a couple of weeks ago, kind of like a mid-season status, and I was like, how many events have people attended that were members or not
Yeah.
members? The whole aspect of, I think, the biggest feedback I've got is people like the club because it's not like a week by week commitment. Like, sign up for the events that you want to sign up for. If you feel like you can make it to a handful of events, so like the membership, for example, like you're paying kind of on the front end, and if you're not a member, you pay an upcharge per event. So, if people kind of did the math on what the upcharge was, okay, if I can at least make it to 9 events, then it's like worth the membership. Where like I have people that sign up for the membership to support me, knowing that they were like, I'm a busy mom, I have kids, I travel, whatever else. So people, I think, wanted to support, but then again, the metro area is huge. It can take like over an hour to get from one side of the city to the others. And I'm like pretty centrally located, which is great. But that being said, too, of like, somebody that lives in the West Metro probably isn't going to go to a Tuesday night tea time at 6 o'clock on the other side.
Right.
So people like, I can join the clubhouse crew. I get first dibs. I get a couple other cool perks. I'm supporting a community. And then the people who didn't join the membership, a lot of the feedback was like, I just wasn't sure how much I was going to be able to golf, but it's nice that like you don't have to be a member to come.
Yeah.
I will say that's been another trial and error of like I have 50 members and like I'm never going to I haven't had more than, I guess I have had 36 spots, but those are like more special events. But on a weeknight basis, it's anywhere between 12 and 24. So when I have a membership that's over double, triple of that, how does that work? And what I've seen, and that was a big topic of conversation the other night, after May, June, July, August, 4 months, hopefully 2 more months of the season. The average right now out of my 50-ish members, I have someone that's attended 17 out of 25 tea times,
Awesome.
and the average is 6. So like it's really all over the map. So that's, when it comes to like the membership, I think at the bottom line, when you're like joining one league at one course, you're paying to golf every week at the same course. People like another big piece of feedback is like, I like to go and play courses that I maybe didn't know about, or I've never played, or I might have never had an opportunity to go had you not facilitated that.
I think that's super interesting. And it touches on the uniqueness of each member. And I think from a community standpoint, it'd be interesting just to get a sense of who are your members. You mentioned the mom that is raising children and doesn't have the time versus the woman who attended 17 events, right? And so talk about that variety and how important it is to be able to meet the needs of different types of members.
Yeah. So the survey I just did kind of bounced on all of those key aspects. Like, what is your skill level? What is a barrier from you being able to attend? What type of events do you want to see? What keeps you back from coming? So I'm 33. I'd say my average age range is probably 26 to mid 40s on average, with a stronger concentration, probably late 20s to late 30s. Outliers on both sides. I had like somebody that had like last summer, like just graduated high school. And then she went off to college. And, I've had people, some of the older generation don't necessarily like to share their age. And I didn't ask the age in my survey, and maybe I should have. I don't think it's important. That's not my goal.
Yeah.
But I know there's people been in 60s and they come. I have got the question a lot, like, am I too old to join? And like, nope, you're not. I mean, people see my photos. A lot of people think I'm a little bit younger. I think more in my late 20s than 33. So I think a lot of people thinks that this is like a young girls golf club, or it's really good because like maybe my social media portrays like I'm not showing people biffing the ball, because first of all, like I don't want to be like, hey, can I post you missing your shot? Like, no, like I post like my own fail videos of me like whiffing it because it's me and I don't care because it's the reality. But yeah, I mean, I've done a couple of, I was working with my public speaking coach and she was like, you need to talk to your audience a little bit more and like introduce people. So I've done a couple of like reels on Instagram or on TikTok where I'm like, how long have you been golfing with us? Or how long have you been golfing? What do you do for work? How did you find Northern Greens? And like, those are the videos that I get the most engagement because people want to relate and hear a story. I can post clips of people teeing off and putting and, you know, nothing that's telling a story. And yeah, like people can see it and make their assumption. But all the times I've been like, what do you do for work? And I mean, like, I have a pharmacist, I have a realtor, I have someone that works in supply chain, I have a catering manager for Target Field, like, you know, I have a dentist. Like,
Yeah.
there's just people everywhere of all different walks of life. And that is, you know, gosh, what a good networking opportunity too. So you never
Well,
know. You found a new dentist, maybe.
it's actually a really good point I didn't think of is it opens up the members themselves to building their own community outside
Mhm.
of Northern Greens. You know, I think as you think about the growth of the organization and you think about, you know, where Northern Greens started as, you know, a social club for women to get together and leverage or use golf as a way to connect into now you're hosting events, you're going away for events, you're leaving the state for events. Where do you see Northern Greens going or where do you want it to go, not only in the near future, but longer term?
That's such a good question. You know, I feel like when I was thinking about what I've done this year versus next year, like how much more could I do? I do winter events. I work with a couple of indoor golf sims and I do that throughout the winter and that's super fun. So it's good to stay engaged throughout the winter, keep your swing warm. You know, I look at how many people have come to my events and then I look at how many followers, for example, I have on Instagram. I think it's like somewhere around 1,600 now,
Hmm.
which is awesome. But if I look at my numbers, I'm like, okay, I've had like 300 people come to my events this year. So where are the other 1,300 people? One thing that is popping up a lot. Not only are like the golf clubs everywhere, which is amazing, but then there's also these like just women's social clubs, like
Hmm.
fitness based or just like activity based. And that's super awesome. I'm really just trying to stay in my lane with golf. We also play pickleball because it was kind of a like easy thing to do over the
Sure.
winter as well. So we played pickleball over the winter. We played outside, but I'm really just trying to stay in my lane with golf. So I see that like here are people who are following me. They found my page. It was some interest to them because
Hmm.
it's just a golf club. Like I'm not really offering anything else. Like it's all golf related.
Yeah.
So I think one time I threw on my Instagram story, like, if you've been following us, but you haven't joined, like, why not? And I got some like all over feedback, just, you know, scheduling or, you know, people are still intimidated. I mean,
Yeah.
try to reach out to people that follow me on Instagram and just be like, hey, Danielle, like, thank you so much for following us. What part of the metro do you live in? How long have you been golfing? And like, please let me know if you have any questions. And, you know, my name's Abby because it's just my page. So
Yeah.
not always super apparent who I am. And I have a thing on my website, but people probably don't always go and look at that. But I'd like to just see a lot of continue to see new people come. And I have. I mean,
Yeah.
right now I've had more new people in 2025 come than past years. So that's been cool. It's kind of out. I've gone over the threshold of like existing or people from before to new members this year joining. So just continuing to grow and provide opportunities. I'd probably like look at more like consistent partnerships with courses or
Hmm.
other like women's programs. They fill up so quick.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, all the golf courses I work with have a women's league and I promote those as well. If that's what wants, you know, I have a couple girls that are in a league because they just like having the consistency no matter what.
Yeah.
And then they join my events for fun or when they can, or because it's a new course to play. So I really don't know. I just want to continue to be a place where people come to learn how to golf
Yeah.
or to continue to grow in their practice, to feel confident, to go off with their friends or their family or for a work event. So when it comes to growing, like I don't really know how much more I could do as of right now. Right now I have 36 tee times throughout the year. That's not including whatever happens in October. And that's a pretty big max. So maybe having a little bit more options throughout the week. You know, sometimes I did one last night, one tonight. We're golfing Sunday. We're golfing next week. Shorter windows because of the sun setting at 8 o'clock now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and I think you know Northern Greens is a great example of the power of local and the power of community. It's interesting to think because you know as I sit here in the DC area, I have to assume that there's a similar club out here. I have to assume there's hundreds of clubs across the country. You know, have you thought about, or is there a organization that helps kind of not manage the different local clubs, but can act as its own advisory board or advisory group of women that are all doing the same thing, but in different locales, and be a sounding board for you to learn more, to share more. It's just really interesting to think about it because it seems like certainly not an easy thing to do, but
Yeah.
something that can be replicated in different areas, but
Yes.
also service your area through that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different social clubs. So last year I found like maybe 4 or 5. And then when I was like doing some market research on a membership, I was going back and looking at their offerings. What are they charging? What are they getting? And then, like, gosh, all summer, it's just been more and more and more and more popping up. And I've connected with a good handful of them that are established or just getting started. So it's super great. I mean, it's kind of something I've thought about of how do we all come together as a group. I've noticed some of them are like maybe tied to the LPGA. I've noticed some have different chapters. I think there's like a Florida one where they have different chapters throughout the city, like different cities of Florida, and maybe they've like kind of gone a little coastal up the way. But I mean, it's all about like, how do we run this? And a big question is is this profitable?
Yeah.
And that's not my why. So I don't have great advice on that. I'd say you're providing a service, you can charge whatever you want. That's on you. But, I don't have advice on that because I'm trying to create a place to make golf approachable, and golf's expensive.
Yeah.
When I finally bought my set of golf clubs a couple of years ago, I also decided to start skiing that year. So that was a lot of money and memberships and passes, lessons, and all the stuff. So yeah, I've talked to a couple of them, and I'm continuing to reach out because I see, these huge groups of women in some of these other ones. And I'm just like, wow, that would be really cool to be able to do like a 72-person scramble. I'm doing a 36-person scramble, 9 and wine at the end of the month, which I'm super excited for.
Which is super cool too.
And, working with some of these women's golf brands, there's a couple local ones here, all over the place. And I have a place for them on my website. There's For the Ladies, which is owned by a woman named Abby. She used to work, I believe, for the USGA. I think she's with Friday Golf now, and she lives in Pinehurst. And that's how I made a big connection. I helped her run some of her events here.
Cool.
And she's kind of changed how she's running her like nationwide events. She hasn't done any here, I think, just because maybe I'm doing them now.
Yeah.
But, she kind of really, I think, pioneered the women's golf club aspect of like structure and how things need to be formatted. So I definitely looked at her for a lot of inspiration and chatted with her a couple of years ago when I was helping with the other club.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
women's
cool.
Groups too.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said about, doing things your own way and doing things kind of in isolation. But I think there is also some value in leaning in and learning from others who have either done things correctly or differently. So I think that's smart that you're leaning into that. As you think about going back to something you had said earlier about the intimidation factor. So golf is intimidating as a sport, right? For everyone who's not a very good golfer. In fact, probably professionals would say it's still intimidating.
Absolutely.
But as you think about coming into a sport that's been predominantly driven by white old men, country club, the country club vibe, talk a little bit about how it's exciting bringing a new type of golfer to the stage, but also some of that intimidation and how you, I assume, has to do with your type A personality, but have easily overcome that, or maybe not easily, have overcome that to continue to build and grow the community.
Yeah. So there's always it's a running joke now when we're on golf trips that we're not a bachelorette party.
Yeah.
People quite literally cannot believe it. There's been a trend on social media. This guy like does these little song voiceovers, like reading obscene text messages. So there was one that was like, "Do you have any kids?" And the gal's like, "Yeah, I have one daughter. How about you?" And he goes, "Nice. How many like baby daddies do you have?" And she's like, "I have one kid." And they're like, "But is she by the same father?" And the woman's just like, I don't understand. So we've had that. So I kind of people have been taking their own takes on it and sharing their own stories of like when you're having a conversation, the person's just like not getting it because of whatever reason. But that happens every time we're on a weekend golf trip or there is a big presence at a golf course. Like, oh, what's going on here? And at Breezy Point last summer, we're staying at Deacon's Lodge, which is one of the Palmer courses and designed by him. And it's a nicer area. So we have a cabin full of guys next, probably our age and their dads. And it's after our round and we're staying right on the driving range.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the sun setting. It's a nice night. The guys in the cabin are like playing bags and dinking around and we're hitting golf balls. And one of the dads goes, wow, what's going on? Like, who's the bride? And like, I just say it's me and I'm married to the game.
I love that.
He's making comments like, oh, I've just never seen a woman hit a golf ball that well or like swing a club that well. And I'm like, did you know that like the LPGA exists? So, I mean, yeah, like there's definitely looks every time, a lot of the times we're like rolling in our like branded apparel, matching, and everyone's like, oh, what is this? But it's also like, so like there's definitely been kind of, some of my viral videos on social media. One of them was like, you look happier. It's like, yeah, I created a women's golf club and, blah, blah, blah. And an older guy goes, well, what if men wanted to golf there? And maybe he thought I like literally opened like a women's only golf course. That's my assumption. And I'm just like, what does that have to do with you? We're just trying to golf. So, it has helped that I'm not shy and I'm assertive. It is, if a group of men is behind us, I have to look at everybody and I have to look at making sure that people are playing by the etiquette, keeping pace of play. Because I think one time it was like I posted and someone's like, oh, well, there goes pace of play. And it's just like, okay, like for why? Or like what tees we should be hitting from. Like, you can't play from the whites. You have to play from the forwards. And it's like, no, we're just going to play wherever you want. Thank you.
I love that.
But then also on the flip side, I've had so many golf courses reach out to me that aren't a part of me and my dad's program or, news outlets or just, I've done some other podcasts, primarily all by guys, actually. I don't think I've actually done a podcast that was hosted by a woman yet. It's always been guys. It's been really great to get like positive feedback and people showing interest of what can we do to make women's golf events better? What are the things that are important? I know that my dad had, talked with somebody at a golf course a while ago, like, oh, we tried to do a women's golf thing. And it's just like, well, do you think a woman's going to sign up for a golf club that's ran by a man? Probably not.
Right.
But like, there's a right and wrong way to go about it. I think of like how you're portraying it and marketing it.
Well, I want to touch on your dad and kind of the support you received, not only from him, but from others. But I had, as you were telling the story, Northern Greens needs to come out with a t-shirt that says we're not here for a bachelorette party.
Yeah. There's been some talks about that.
That's awesome. Let's segue a little bit to your dad, but ultimately just your support network as a whole. So, entrepreneurship, community building is isolating, right? Like you probably feel a lot of weight on your shoulders in managing all of what you do individually, but also for the collective. So talk a little bit about the importance of your own community in terms of support and where that comes from and how you lean on that.
Yes. I'd say, there's a lot of people that I've in the group that I've met through golf, whether it was literally back in 2022 or more recently that I've had good friendships with. I met my boyfriend through my golf club actually back in April. We jokingly call him our male ambassador. I gave him the Northern Greens hats. He is coworkers with one of the golf girls and she asked if her single coworker could come to my master's anniversary party. And I was like, no, this is for girls. But then I was like, actually, there's a couple other guys I could think that could come in. So he's been super supportive.
Good thing you opened up the invitation.
I know, right? Right. And I have a male ambassador now. So he's been super supportive. He wears the swag. He talks about it. I did a podcast right after we met and started dating. And he was like, this is so cool that you do this. So like, that was, it made me blushing a little. My dad has been super supportive. I mean, he thinks that I just like am sitting on a rocket ship right now. And he's like, it's just really fun to see what you've been able to build and what you've been able to do. My couple of really close friends have been super, super helpful because they know me at my core. while I'm type A, it is really hard to manage expectations. And that's kind of why I started working with a public speaking coach as well, because I want to make sure that I'm portraying, I'm the face of the brand, right?
Yeah.
And, what do I allow in the group? And what are the experiences that people are having? So that's why the advisory board's important, right? Like getting their feedback. Did anybody say anything? Like, I've reached out to some of the girls I know a little bit better when I noticed they were paired with somebody that was brand new. It's just like, hey, how was their vibe? Like, how do you think it went? I've done the surveys and I get some, like, it's anonymous. And I always say, like, this is anonymous because I want it to be a safe place, but context is so important. And I totally welcome a conversation that could be about anything. So I can have, context on it, but it has been a lot. And I am thankfully not an avoidant person. And I tend to just like wear my heart on my sleeve. So as soon as I kind of just feel off about something, or I'm like, I'm not really sure, like, let me get a perspective. I do just have so many people I can go to and,
That's great.
kind of get their ear and get their feedback. And again, it's all coming from a place of like good faith, curiosity, and then like consideration. Like I'm trying to be considerate of everybody else. And it's really hard because I live in Minnesota where there are some passive aggressive people who just are not confrontational, or who maybe, they like the club because they can just show up. They pay
Yeah.
and they show up. They're not having to worry about anything. And that's fine. They're not supposed to necessarily. But, trying to really get it across that like everybody's behaviors are contributing to the brand
Yeah.
and like impacts other people's experiences. So I try to be as clear as possible on what my expectations are, but we're all adults. And, luckily I haven't had to like address anything major, but I also can't like control everybody's reactions and their sensitivities either. So it is really just hard. And I have to try and stay consistent with my messaging and making sure that I'm giving people a space to provide feedback.
That's awesome. Um, and I think, oftentimes entrepreneurship and community building is probably a lot around professional growth, right? But it sounds like through our previous conversation, the community has been important in your own personal growth. And so talk a little bit about how that's been maybe not certainly the reason you started it, but it's been a nice thing that has come from you running the community, is that you continue to grow as a person and as a young woman and as a professional.
Yeah, it's been very eye-opening. Being in sales, being a woman in tech, and again, my direct nature, I've had to really like challenge myself to come from that place of curiosity. I'm a reactive person. Like I have my opinion. I have like my idea of how things should be. We take those dang personality tests
Yeah.
like at work and like, what's your personality type or your insights or your strength finder, and
Yeah.
how do I balance that and play to my skills while still developing? So it's just given me a place, I think, to be more considerate of other people. And again, like I have my idea of what I want. I mean, like essentially the golf trips, it's like I planned my ideal cabin weekend up north, what I
Yeah.
would want to do, a boat, going to the fun bar, playing the fun courses, having a good cabin, like what would be ideal for me. But again, like I have to like really think about other people. And on the flip side, I tend to be a people pleaser too. And I can't accommodate everybody.
Yeah.
And that's been really hard. I think all of my moments of like stress or panic or emotion have come from lack of like maybe self-awareness when it comes to things, and just like being a little bit more gentle on myself. That is
Hmm.
some feedback I've got from some mentors in the past and some colleagues and managers of like, give yourself some grace,
Yeah.
or you're doing good and you can't do everything. And even after reflecting on my group trip this past weekend, it was a bit of a smaller group. We were out in Door County, and I wanted, what I think should happen isn't necessarily like what should happen, but just asking for people to be considerate, like of other people, and like waiting and being patient. Like we're all in this little group here together. So really just like understanding and just like kind of letting some things be. But again, like my boyfriend told me the other night, like this is your business. And
Yeah.
like this can be what you want it to be. If that is your expectation, like people can take it or leave it. And I
Yeah.
have got the feedback of just like trying to have some radical self-honesty through therapy or through having hard conversations with the people I love and trust. What could I do to be better?
Yeah.
And it's a lot about approach, and it's just a lot about getting it across that like everybody, like you joining this group impacts the group in itself, and
Yeah.
me just holding to the expectation to my best and doing what's right by myself at the end of the night. Like pointing out those moments where I'm having, elevated feelings about something and what's contributing to it. Is it something I can change, or is it like a personal problem?
Well,
So,
I mean, I've not heard the term radical self-honesty,
yeah,
but
it's
it's,
scary.
yeah, but it's so important,
Yeah,
right? So thank you for that. As
yeah.
we transition kind of towards the end of the conversation before we jump into the lightning round, would love for you to just give some general or some pointed advice to other entrepreneurs trying to start something in the golf space, whether it be a brand, business, or community.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see more men's clubs that are just like this. That goes back to a lot of things around like men's and their mental health and like
Mm,
in friendships and like getting outside of their comfort zone or like caring too much, all of that kind of stuff. It's something I've talked with my current boyfriend. I was something I had a conversation with somebody I dated in the past that when I was with the old club, he's like, I wish there was something like that for men. And two of the guys here, Save Par, who have like kind of a meme page, they have a podcast and they're like, we would like some more local support. And it's just like, you just have to start somewhere. Like,
yeah.
call a golf course and make a tea time and, just get your friends together. Like, you just have to ask the question. I like to say you can't push a rope and a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So, I mean, like, find a group of like call a golf course and get it started. Start an Instagram page. Like, I mean, that's really what I did.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have a bunch of capital to like go and do sponsored posts. It was like word of mouth. There's so many Facebook groups for like women golfers or golfers in general or social clubs. Like, you just really have to put yourself out there. And it's hard. And like, I definitely have moments sometimes where it's just like, oh my gosh, like, is this sustainable? Or like, do I want to continue to do this? And that's like, again, like a personal thing. Like, nothing has happened. I'm my own worst enemy, right? We all are. Super critical of it. But people just have to know that like it takes time to grow something. I mean, I would have never guessed in a year and a half I'd have over 1,600 followers by pretty much an organic growth. I haven't, I think I like did one boosted post like one time in the new year. And I
Yeah.
got a lot of feedback from it, which was great.
Yeah.
But you really have to figure out what your why is. I
Yeah.
think when you're looking at a community-based thing, again, like I kind of talked about that before, like I'm not trying to pay my mortgage or my car payment with Northern Greens. Like, people are always like, you should charge more and like you should be compensated. You spend so much time. And she's like, I hope my tea time's covered.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be cool if I can golf for free from spending the time planning this. So, I mean, like, you really have to figure out what your why is. And at the end of the day, like, I always go back to like, I'm here for community, and getting
Yeah.
those texts after, like, around being like, it was so fun to meet you guys. I'm so glad I found you. Or I gave somebody a tip and it totally like changed her golf game the rest of the night. And I could just see every time she hit a good shot, she was just super excited. Like, wow, I figured this out. And I'm like, yes, like,
Yeah.
cool. So, if you're looking for community, like, you just have to be the one to start it. And it really was like an overnight thing for me. I kind of had the idea and I just had to run with it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome that you're able to kind of push through. I do want to touch on before we jump to the lightning round. You mentioned, and this is with every entrepreneur or anyone in business that just, there are times when they want to stop, right? Something becomes too overwhelming or challenging. What is the thing that drives you not to stop?
It is like the positive feedback.
Yeah.
Like, reading the survey I just sent out was like really great. It was
Yeah.
just awesome to see like everyone is so welcoming and like the girls are great. I've met friends. I feel comfortable golfing now. Like, that's kind of what keeps me going, because like I would maybe be surprised to see another women's golf club pop up. I mean, I think there's like the LPGA, and it's like there's like a lot of older women
Sure.
golf groups too, and that's fine. Like, they want to golf with people in the same phase of life that they're in. But I just know like nobody else was really doing this before. Like, the community like needs me to do it.
Yeah.
And it filled a hole and a gap in my life. And I'm like, gosh, I wonder if there had been something like this in my like early to mid 20s, like, gosh, what it could have been now if I would have started this before or had the idea.
Yeah.
So it's really just like the opportunity that I'm giving people and the point of connection. Like, I have a lot of friends from a lot of different areas. Like, my two best friends are from junior high. I have a couple friends from like college time. I have friends that I've met at work.
Yeah.
And then I have the friends that I've met through Northern Greens. Being more single, as a lot of my friends were getting married and now having kids in their late 20s, early 30s, like, I kind of had all my free time. And when I say like the whole, like, I have no chill, like, like, God, my plate is so full, and people are like, how do you do it all? Or like, you ever get like, and I have FOMO. Like, we were at Fort County, and my friend, like, some of the girls were at the state fair here, which is huge. And I was like, oh, I wish I was there. And they're like, Abby, you're in George County. I'm like, I know, but I just like, I want to hang out. I don't know. It's just like, well, how lucky am I to have a life that allows me the opportunity to provide this and to fill my calendar with all of these golf events.
Yeah.
Like, I feel really lucky that I'm privileged to have the resources to do so, have the health, and then just have the community behind me.
Well, it certainly comes through in the conversation we're having that you're able to work on a few different passions in your life, which I think is a very lucky thing for anyone. So kudos to you to be able to do that. Abby, I've really enjoyed the conversation. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask a handful of lightning round questions just to give the audience a better sense of who you are.
Yeah.
Favorite course to play golf at?
Superior National at Lutsen, which is on the North Shore of Lake Superior.
Awesome. Favorite drink and snack while playing golf?
Salted nut roll is the snack, and that's a Pearson local company.
I was going to say, what it
You don't know what a salted nut roll is? I mean, it's probably like a regional thing, but Pearson Candy Company, it is like a peanut bar with like a nougat kind of thing in the middle. It's delicious. Maybe I'll have to send you a box.
Yeah, please.
But it's kind of like a joke. And like the golf cart girls always have them as well. I do love a transfusion. That's kind of like my signature drink when I do events, but Bloody Mary in the morning or a summer shandy on the course.
Nice.
We have Liney's next door in Wisconsin. So
that's awesome. Who's a dream collaboration for Northern Greens?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. I mean, I think it'd be like really cool to work with like a shoe brand.
Mm-hmm.
That would probably like, be really cool.
Are you a sneakerhead?
I'm not, but I'm 5'9" and have a size 10 and a half and like wide feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to walk. I've tried True Links shoes. I connected with one of the sales reps. She kind of has this club called Elevate Women's. She's out of Michigan. So I recently connected with her. So she kind of gave me a hookup on True Links. And I think they're more of like a newer company.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I really love the shoes. They've been really comfortable for me, but there's, it'd just be really cool to like partner with like some of these bigger golf brands. I interviewed for a job with Adidas Golf this past winter and I didn't get it. They went industry vet, which I understand, but it's like really cool to work with like a bigger golf brand.
Yeah, that's awesome. Last question. What has golf taught you about entrepreneurship or running a community?
Patience. Like everything takes time. Like it just does. I'd say taking a step back now and looking at what has transpired over the last year and a half, like pretty cool what I've been able to do. But patience. I mean, when it comes to golf, when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to community, like everything takes time. Relationships take time to build. Trust takes time to build. So, when it came to like the membership, there were people that just jumped right in, not knowing what they were signing up for. And I actually have had, I think 3 people that sign up for the membership that I literally have never seen all summer. And then I have people that were like, I wasn't sure, so I didn't sign up, but now I'd like to sign up. So, I mean, it just takes patience. I'm a very impatient person. I've like very much been on my own my whole life financially, like since I was an adult, and, being chronically like for the most part single most of my 20s, living by myself. I've never really been a roommate person. Like I've always had to do everything myself. So it's just like, it's like on me. Like I want to buy that. I have to work hard at my day job to afford it. Like I have to clean my house. I have to take the garbage out. I have to do everything. So just being more patient and like enjoying like the moment and letting things kind of come together as they should.
Yeah. Well, we'll stop at that. I think that's awesome. It's a great answer. And it takes a lot for someone that considers themselves impatient to work in golf and build a community. Because as you said, patience is paramount.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, if you don't mind telling the audience where to find you online and across the socials.
Yeah, so the website's northerngreensgolfcollective.com. I believe TikTok and Instagram both are Northern Greens Golf MN, and Facebook, I think, is just Northern Greens Golf Collective.
Awesome. Well, Abby, I really appreciate the time. It was great talking with you, and I look forward to following along Northern Greens and seeing it continue to grow.
Yeah, I'm excited to try those mullies too.
Soon enough. Thanks, Abby.